Okay, we're live.
Yay! Okay, so what do we do? You're in
Um,
charge because I don't know. I have never hosted one of these. I've done it, but is there everybody can see us now?
I think so. And it's going to be recorded and it's going to be available on YouTube later for people to see. And the
Okay.
way Hangout is activated is whoever is talking, that's who the
Yay.
camera is going to be showing.
What do we do? Oh, I see. There must be a delay. You're in charge because I don't know. I have never hosted one of these. I've done it. So if I do, but is there everybody can?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to turn that part off and just talk to you on this part.
Yes.
There's a delay. Okay, got it. Okay, sorry everybody. All right, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Lisa Coffey. I'm the author of 7 books, including What's Your Dosha Baby? And I met Nadia Andreeva, our wonderful Nadia. I am your biggest fan, Nadia.
Thank
I
you.
guess we met online somehow. I don't even remember how, but I just am so impressed with all that you've done. And I want to hear how you got involved with Ayurveda. How did it find you, or how did you find Ayurveda?
Sure. So Ayurveda, I guess I found Ayurveda. It didn't really find me. Um, I heard about Ayurveda since I was a kid because my parents were traditional doctors, but they were really interested in Eastern medicine. And I heard it, I knew what my dosha is, but I never got into it until I came to New York and I was studying at NYU and I started having hormonal issues. And at the same time, I was already teaching yoga, and I had an assignment to go interview Dr. Lad and write an article about him. So I came to Dr. Lad, and he started asking me questions about myself, and there it was. He said basically that whatever I was doing was wrong, and I had to stop drinking green juices nonstop. Um, and just the way he explained everything made so much sense, and it made me so interested that I started studying more. And I went to New Mexico and spent as much time as I could during his intensives. But yeah, I think that's how I found Ayurveda.
Yeah, and I have to say, Dr. Ladd is one of my favorites too. He wrote the foreword to my What's Your Dosha Baby book.
Mhm.
I adore him, and if anybody's interested in studying with him, you can just go to Ayurveda.com. That's his website. He runs the Ayurvedic Institute, and I think that's the best place to go to study if you actually want to be an Ayurvedic practitioner. He's probably the best expert in the United States to learn from. So great.
Yeah.
So he's a good introduction to it for you.
Yeah, he's amazing and he knows how to explain things in such a simple manner, and it's so captivating that you actually do want to learn more.
Right. So then you started going on the Ayurvedic lifestyle and you saw differences all right away in your life, or how did that work?
Well, I guess it took a little bit of time, and there was some internal struggle because I lived more of a raw food, lots of juices, very, very high activity level. And he directed me to an Ayurvedic practitioner in New York to go for regular visits. And the practitioner said the same thing as Dr. Lad, basically. Start exercising less, eat a little bit more, stop drinking as many juices. And emotionally, it was a difficult thing to let go of. Um, but when I did, my body was actually really happy, which I was kind of surprised. But my periods, which I didn't have for 9 months before, came back as soon as I gained a little bit of weight and started eating normally.
Right.
So yeah,
And
I didn't see the changes right away, but I did see them eventually.
yeah, and I think a lot of women are in that situation right now where they might think, okay, I want to lose weight, so I need to exercise more and eat less. But depending on your dosha, you may be doing exactly the wrong thing, right?
Yes. And it is actually such an incredible thing about Ayurveda that it allows you to see the differences for each particular dosha and choose both the workouts and the food that will work for your particular body type.
Right, Right. And I love your new book. Tell everybody about your book because you talk a lot about that in your book.
Yes. So my new book, Happy Belly: Women's Guide to Feeling Vibrant, Light, and Balanced, it came out in March, and it's about digestive health for women. Basically, how to alleviate bloating and get rid of constipation by changing certain eating habits.
Good, good. And like you said, it's not a one size fits all approach. So I think people start with knowing their dosha.
Well, I think there are some habits that people of all doshas can benefit using. I
Yes.
think most of us would feel really good adding some spices to the food and having some warm water throughout the day. That's universal.
Yes.
Um, but yes, knowing your dosha allows you to understand how your body will react to particular foods and to particular stressors in life. So you're more prepared to support your body when it needs.
Interesting. Yep, that's true. Okay, now also you were just in Russia recently. Were you teaching Ayurveda there too? And how is Ayurveda practiced in Russia? Is it popular there or is it all new to the Russian people?
Well, it's very interesting. Russians love Ayurveda, and I went to teach mostly psychology because I have my master's in psychology. So I was working with women around the emotional beliefs and um, particularly how that translates to behaviors. But we did discuss a little bit of Ayurveda, and Russians, they're very particular about yoga and Ayurveda. So if they're into it, they want to be so traditional and so by the letter that anything that's outside of it is basically wrong. Um, so they do study Vedas and they do study Ayurveda, but it's basically like whatever was practiced such a long time ago that I'm not even sure if it translates normally to the normal life. So, for example, the Ayurvedic teachings for women would include the dress style and how you protect yourself energetically and like what's the role of a woman and that she needs to be happy for her husband, like cook and don't keep her hair loose and like all that stuff that um, kind of makes me feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I understand. I love that you call yourself the modern Ayurveda girl. And as you know, that's kind of my approach too. Ancient wisdom, modern style. How can we apply this ancient wisdom to our lives right now and make it relevant for us? And how do we use it, not in a traditional way, but in current practice? Because a lot of I'm sure you'll agree with me too. A lot of times Western medicine has it right. If you break your arm, you're going to go
Mhm.
to the emergency room. You're not going to say, oh, what can I do Ayurvedically? You're going to use what tools we have. And we have so many tools available to us, we can actually pick and choose what's best given each current situation.
Yeah, I really love your approach because you take it and you make it applicable for Western modern people because our environment changed, the times have changed, what we have available is very different than what it was 5,000 years ago. So I think the way we apply it has to change as well. And plus the problems that we experience right now, from stress to the completely different type of food, are very different and they need to have a different way of addressing them.
Oh, absolutely. And simple things like sleep even. I just gave a lecture for the Better Sleep Council, and I was telling them that, back before we had electricity, you didn't need to tell people how to get a good night's sleep. It's like the sun went down, you went to sleep, the sun comes up, you wake up, it's just natural. We're in harmony with nature. But now we've got 24/7 access to the internet, and people can't detach from their cell phones at all. They're actually taking their phones to bed with them. It's craziness.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to balance the ancient and the modern definitely, and use the tools we have, but remember our true nature.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes it can be very challenging for people to respect those nature's laws because we think that if we came up with electricity, then what's nature's law of the sun coming down? Um, and if we came up with enzymes, then who cares about strong or weak Agni?
Oh
Um,
my gosh,
but
yeah.
yes, disrespect to nature always leads to consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about food and digestion. That's really your specialty and everything.
Yeah.
Um, what about food allergies? That's something I always get questions about. Where
Well,
did it come from and stuff?
yeah, it's there are many different factors that we can consider. So the food supply has changed. What I personally think has happened is we have such an overabundance of food, and our appetites are pretty much insatiable. So there's more food, we want more food, and that's scientifically proven. If you put more food in front of people, they will actually eat more food. And what it turns into is that our digestive system is pretty much overloaded both with a variety and with a quantity of food. Because people mix together, even in healthy dishes, foods that you would never find together in nature. So you put like 10 different ingredients in one smoothie thinking that's the healthiest thing for your body. Um, and that over time just puts a, a certain taxing, it's very taxing for our digestive system because it takes different amount of time to digest various food. We need different enzymes to digest various foods. And then when it's all combined in one pile, it just it's a difficult effort for the body to do it. But it also comes on top of us being constantly anxious and stressed out, so there's not that much blood flow going into the digestive system to begin with. Then there's also an aspect of the food being significantly changed by people modifying it. So if the wheat was of a particular source and kind even 100 years ago, now it's very, very different. And plus, the industries will put parts of products, like parts of soy, parts of gluten, into all other products where it would never be found before. So you'll have a sauce that contains gluten. And basically almost everything processed, everything in the package will contain some sort of a soy added to it. So it's not that the wheat is bad on its own or soy is bad on its own. It just our body meets those allergens in the foods where it wouldn't even expect them, and they're not coming in a whole form. They're coming in bits and pieces, so it's hard for the body to recognize. And the same as I really like what Dr. John Douillard says about food allergies, is that, for example, wheat and dairy were never meant to be eaten all the time throughout the year, 3 times per day. Wheat was always a winter grain, and you would eat it in the bread that was always very simple. It was like flour and water,
Mm-hmm.
or it was sprouted, or it was fermented. The bread's never supposed to have sugar and additional gluten and soy and eggs and all of it mixed together with yeast. If you have something really simple like wheat berry salad, you're much less likely to develop a wheat allergy. You're also not going to be eating it 3 times per day. Um, so I think when it comes to food allergies, one of the things is to really get honest of what are you eating, what is in your cupboard, are you eating any sources of gluten and wheat that can be stored for months at a time, and then start probably first let your body rest from those heavy to digest foods so your digestive system can rebound and rest. And then if you do decide to include it in its whole form, trying to keep it as organic as possible. Maybe add sprouted grains instead of regular grains. And then keep it in seasonal rotation so you're not eating grains all the time, 3 times per day. You can have millet, you can have buckwheat, you can have oats. There's
Quinoa.
quinoa, like there's so many wonderful grains.
Right, right. And I think this is particularly good information for parents to know because we can actually teach our children the right way to eat so that they grow up with these good habits and then they understand already so that maybe they can even avoid getting some of these food allergies.
Yeah, 100%. I think parents have so much control over the health of their child and the habits of their child. I was just telling in another webinar last night that the research shows that if both parents are overweight or obese, the child pretty much has a guarantee of being overweight and obese. And not just because of the genetics, but mostly because of the habits that the family is practicing every single meal. So it's up to us to decide what goes into child's stomach, but also what kind of habits they establish before they grow up.
Absolutely. And you know, it also makes sense what you said about mixing different foods and how foods have changed over the years, because over the years we've also seen an increase in celiac disease and Crohn's disease and all kinds of digestive disorders. So really, you know, we need to get back to our true nature and get back to some of the simplicity that maybe our great grandparents practiced back in the day, and eat more simply.
I don't think anything beats simple food. I usually have a rule for myself that it's not even a rule. I guess I'm just too lazy to make it more complicated, but I rarely will use more than 5 ingredients on my plate.
Yeah, sure. And it's faster and easier too, right?
Exactly, that's what I meant by that I'm probably too lazy. It's so much easier when you choose just a couple of ingredients, and it's easy for your stomach, it's easy for you to make, and your taste buds adapt, so the food doesn't taste any worse. You actually you just start tasting food more, so it doesn't have to be saturated in sauces and all kinds of dressings. It just tastes really good on its own.
Yeah, and I think another important thing is to cook more at home too, because then you're aware of all the ingredients that are going in your food. We don't know when we go to a restaurant exactly what we're getting.
Oh, you know what? I have an interesting story about that. So my fiance and I, he's basically changed his way of eating 100%, and he eats whatever I'm making, right, most of the time. But we were watching a TV show about like the way they were changing the restaurant, and it was a nice Italian restaurant in the neighborhood, and they showed what's happening in the kitchen, and it's horrible. It's a nice sit-down restaurant. It's not a chain, and it was like greens that are molded, like such a disgusting environment. Everything is done in a rush. You don't know what they were holding before, if it was a garbage can or another plate.
Right.
And it's just not an environment where the food is infused with calm and love and anything good. It's just a rush. Everyone is angry. They want to get it out to you as quick as possible. So unless you're eating in a really, really nice restaurant where you know the owners and you know that they're doing it because they love it, I actually wouldn't eat out.
I've seen some of those shows too, those kitchen nightmares, you know,
Exactly.
and it's like the whole front is a facade. It looks like this elegant place, but you go in the kitchen and it's like filthy. And that's not even talking about the ingredients. You want the ingredients to be fresh and wholesome and, you know, good for you, and you don't even know for sure what they're adding or not, if they're adding sugar to it or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's always safer and tastier and cheaper to eat at home. And there is a huge misconception that it takes a lot of time. But for the majority of the time, if you have, for example, sprouted quinoa sitting, sprouted lentils sitting, if you have some good quality sprouted breads and hummus, it doesn't take long to prepare a nice meal. You add some greens, maybe add some carrots or some baked beets, and add some hummus, and you have a meal ready.
I love it. And you know, that's kind of the principle, the whole principle behind the Perfect Balanced Diet Club that I started, and you were so generous and kind to jump on board and help with. And I love your recipes. Your recipes are some of the favorite ones. But if anybody wants to look into this club, basically when you join, you get your week's menu, and the recipes for that menu, and then the shopping list, and you get meditations and videos and everything, so it makes it so easy for you to just plan out your week's worth of meals. And very simple, easy, but also totally delicious food. So I'd encourage anybody to look at perfectbalancediet.com.
Yeah, and I think it's a great idea because you can either go online and look for all the recipes and then try to figure out what you need to get, or you can actually have somebody do it for you. And it's always nice to feel that you're cared for and somebody does it for you.
Yeah, well, because the hardest part for me is trying to figure out what to make. It's like you kind of lose creativity. It's like, oh, I got to make dinner again. What am I going to make? What am I going to make? So by following the club, it's kind of made it easier for me too. I know what I'm going to be coming up with each week, and so it makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah, and it's the best testimony that any product can have when the owner is actually using it for their own family.
There you go. There you go. Now you have a new program I saw that's coming up. Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, so I'm doing a program. It's called New Vibrant You, and it's basically a 6 weeks online program that will teach women how to let go of the emotional struggle with weight. So it will cover the food aspects, and I will provide seasonal recipes for this particular, so spring moving into summer recipes. But we will also work a lot on how to work on a subconscious level with changing the habits, finding the inspiration, staying motivated throughout the whole process. So I'm really excited to support the group of women.
That's huge. And I think that, most women that I talk to, if I ask them, what do you want to change by yourself? That's the first thing they say is my weight. They have body self-image issues. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, I actually do, and it's pretty sad because sometimes you look at the woman and she's gorgeous, and she has this low confidence and a negative self-talk. And other times you see a woman who would probably be healthier and feel lighter if she lost weight, but there's this disbelief and mistrust that she can actually do it. So she won't even try because she doesn't believe that she can do it. So in both of those cases, there's an internal unhappiness. It's constant beating yourself up. And I think I want to be surrounded with women that are really happy. I want to be surrounded with women who love their bodies because this way they're more present for the whole world. And I think you have to start by fixing that internal battle.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Okay, so what else do we need to know about Ayurveda and digestion? How do we jumpstart our digestion? So, a lot of people have these sluggish digestive systems, and maybe they're not feeling so good, or they're getting over the flu. Like I just had the flu this week, and I have to be really careful what I eat right now.
Yeah.
What's a way to jumpstart our digestion? What are some few tips that we can take away?
Well, I think the easiest way to go about it, let's go through the day. And let's see what we can do throughout the day to help digestion. So I would say that the first thing you wake up, besides going through a couple of things that you're grateful for, the next thing would be have some warm water or even hot water with some lime. So now the season is changing and it's going to get more into Pitta season soon. So I would probably opt out for lime instead of lemon for most people. And that's going to jumpstart your digestive system. Having a warm or hot water stimulates peristalsis. So for most people who have a healthy digestive system, that will stimulate elimination. And then from there on, do some sort of a movement. People forget and they think that digestion is connected only to the food that we eat. But in reality, digestive system is connected to all other organs in the body. So moving the body, getting the lymphatic flow back into normal, back into active state is very, very important. So if you jump rope, do some dancing, shake your hips, do some yoga, maybe jump on the trampoline, whatever you do, even 5 minutes of physical activity is really, really helpful in increasing the blood flow, getting the lymphatic system to move, and then also stimulating the digestive system. So if you're jumping, just like twist from side to side or do some side stretches, and
Oh,
also
that's
contract.
all going.
Yeah, and then contracting and extending the core when you do, for example, down dog into up dog is also really good for digestive system. And there on, you're moving into breakfast. So for breakfast, I would have something that's pretty easy to digest, but also at the same time nourishing enough so you're not starving in the second half of the day. So again, that's going to depend on the digestive system. Vata types can have something that's on a sweeter side, like a stewed apple or pear, or maybe some berries. And then if they feel hungrier, they can have some oatmeal or quinoa or millet. And maybe add some almond milk. Now that it's summer, you can probably make chia pudding overnight, soak it with a little bit of oats, and have chia pudding for breakfast. Pita types, they're usually hungrier. Like I'm pita. I basically, like an hour after I wake up, I'm starving. So I'll actually sometimes I'll have a smoothie, like a green smoothie. I'll usually use just a small piece of fruit, and the rest is all vegetables. Or I will have a nice salad with roasted vegetables, and I'll use vegetables from last night. So my breakfast is pretty substantial, and
Yeah.
I think most pitas will actually be pretty hungry for breakfast.
Yeah, that's what my husband does too, and he's a pitta, and
Yeah.
that's what he has. He'll have like leftover vegetables with some salad, and that's his breakfast. And a lot of people are like, "That doesn't sound like breakfast," and it's like perfect for him, perfect.
Yeah, and my breakfast often doesn't look like it's breakfast because I can have something that normal people would have for dinner.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but then kapha types, that like my mom is mostly kapha, so she oftentimes won't even be hungry for breakfast. Like she'll have some tea with lemon, or she'll have even add apple cider vinegar, and then she'll have her first meal around 11. Um, so it's really, really different, and I think it's important to honor your hunger.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go around your normal day, probably do a little bit of meditation or something that will reduce anxiety, because anxiety will come up, and any sort of stress, any sort of anxiety will affect digestive system. So it's good to make sure that your nervous system is calm before you move on to lunch. And lunch will be your biggest meal. So it's ideal by Ayurveda standards to eat your biggest meal, sometimes between 10 and 2 p.m. So 1 p.m., 12 p.m. would probably be an ideal time to have your biggest meal. And here you would have whatever you're planning to have that's harder to digest. So if people are eating, for example, fish, or if they're eating lentils or beans, or if you're having bread, that would be the time to include those things. If you're craving a treat of some sort, that's also the time to include it. It's much better to have your dessert when your digestion is the strongest versus saving it up for later at night after dinner when you're going to go back to sleep. So if you
Right.
are having something, then have it when your body can actually digest it.
Yeah, and also you have more time to burn off the calories from that during the day, before you go to bed. So that's
Yeah.
what I do is I'll typically have for lunch like some rice and dal or some dal and naan, something like that. And then I'll have my little dessert because I'm a Vata and I got a sweet tooth, so I'll have my little bite of special treat, something like that in the afternoon.
And actually, it's helpful for most women to have a treat of some sort that they're looking forward to. Because if you do like sweet taste, feeling completely deprived is going to set you up for some sort of a binge or overeating later. And that's going to do a lot more harm than enjoying your sprout cookie or a nice like homemade bowl with maybe some carob and oats. So you can make lots of healthy stuff that's not going to aggravate your digestive system.
Exactly. And that's why I made sure that with our Perfect Balanced Diet Club that we put one special treat recipe every week, so people don't feel deprived. And then they can see the variety of possibilities of nice, good, yummy things we can eat. And we don't need a huge portion, we just need a few little bites to satisfy us. It's the taste, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, and I love that you're mentioning that it's the few bites to satisfy us. I think a lot of people are having this belief that, okay, if I'm starting to eat a sweet and it's really bad for me, I might as well eat the whole thing because I shouldn't be eating it for the next 2 months anyway. And allowing yourself to enjoy it and actually feel the taste will allow to be completely satisfied with a few bites, because again, scientifically it's proven that the taste will decrease around after 3 bites because the taste buds will become less sensitive.
There you go. See, so whenever I make a cake or something, I divvy it up and give some to my friends and neighbors so that we only have enough for me and my husband, You don't want old food laying around anyway, and it feels good to share with your friends and neighbors. It's another way of giving, and that's how I handle it, because if I have a whole cake sitting around, my husband will say, oh, well, I have to eat it before it gets stale. I said, just because it's there doesn't mean you have to eat it, He doesn't have the discipline that I have.
Well, I don't know if, in some cases it's the discipline, in other cases it's the belief system that we carry since childhood. So depending on the type of family that you're coming from, if, for example, there were several kids, you always had to eat your stuff while it was there because you would wake up and it was completely gone. And it's really hard to untrain yourself from seeing the world in those colors, even though you logically might understand that now it's just 2 of you and whatever is in the fridge is going to stay in the fridge. But it sometimes our subconscious can get in the way.
That's right. Emotional eating is a big topic, especially for women. I think women soothe themselves with foods. It's like those famous movie scenes where they're eating the ice cream right out of the container. Something bad happens and they go straight to the refrigerator. So how do women? Okay, well, let's get back to the daily clock so that we finish with the clock, but we'll come back.
Well, I think we have just a couple of steps left to finish. So dinner. I guess most people will have some sort of a snack, especially if you have this long break between lunch and dinner. So you can have a piece of fruit, or you can have some avocado with some seaweed, like toasted seaweed. That's a really good snack. Or maybe some hummus with carrots or whatever other vegetables you might like. And then dinner is usually a lighter meal. And what I like to think about, if whatever you can fit into your palms, that's probably the ideal size. So if you're making a plate and it looks like you need arms to wrap around it, then it's probably too much food.
That's the American diet. You know what I mean? Everything is supersize it. But that's not what we should do. Do not supersize it like this, right?
Yeah. And you'd be surprised if you go to Europe, or if, like, even when I went to Russia, you come to the restaurant and they'll actually bring you food. So most entrees will be less than half a pound. And they will actually write everything in grams with similar ounces. So each entree, they will have weight next to the menu. And I think it's a Russian idea of, like, am I paying, like, how much am I paying for this amount of food? But you get a plate.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so we write calories down, they write grams of food. But there, it like, you get a portion and it's barely enough to hold you off to the next meal.
Well, right away when I go out to restaurants, I cut the meal in half, and I know I'm only going to eat at least half of it and take the rest home, because they must make things as if we're going to share it all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah, but again, all the experiments, all the science proves that the more you give to people, the more they will eat. So when they did an experiment with, it was basically a bottomless bowl. So whenever it was running towards the end, it would refill. People will keep eating. Um, so
Right.
it's basically when we rely on the outside measurements of how much we should be eating or when we should be eating, we completely tune out from feeling our body. So if we rely on the size of a bowl to determine how much we should eat, then we're not going to stop eating, no matter if we're full already or not.
Yep, that's such a good point. We need to tune in and listen to our body. And Ayurveda actually says we should only eat until we're 50 to 75% full. Don't stuff yourself, but listen to your body's signals, right?
Yeah. Yeah, listen to your body signals and also this idea of being comfortable with not being stuffed because I think feeling stuffed gives some sort of a safety feeling. Like now I'm completely safe and I'm full and filled. Um, but it's not the type of safety that you actually want to experience because it's it's yeah, it's basically connected to an emotion that you can create for yourself with other ways besides food. And there's nothing scary about not being stuffed. So that nothing is being taken away. You just feel lighter. So being comfortable with that sensation of lightness, being comfortable with hunger and recognizing hunger as a cue from the body that it needs nourishment, not as a sign that I'm starving, let me eat whatever is in my sight, is going to be very, very helpful.
Absolutely. Okay, so what are some good dinner ideas then?
So I think dinner, usually Ayurveda will say that any sort of heavy proteins are not good for dinner. So I would probably keep it vegetable based. If you have strong digestion, especially in the summer, you can have some salad and then maybe put some summer vegetables on it. So you can put some roasted fennel on it, maybe some asparagus. Having soups, I love blended soups. So I recently started making coconut leek soup. So just really blended. You can make the same with some fennel and coconut, or maybe butternut squash and coconut milk. So
Yeah.
just a nice soup with maybe some flaxseed crackers or some toasted pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds, and a drop of balsamic. That would be a very nice, nourishing dinner.
Oh yeah, I remember. I don't remember if it was you or one of our other contributors submitted a asparagus soup recipe. It was so delicious and so easy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that idea very much. That's good. So yeah, that helps us with our digestion throughout the day. So let's go back just a little bit about to the emotional eating. What are some tools people can use to kind of wean off of food as a tool for soothing their emotions?
Yeah. So I recently did a thought field therapy training, and basically the founder of that field, therapy, Roger Callahan, he says that a lot of people will use food as a tranquilizer. So the underlying premise is that a lot of people are anxious, and anxious to the point and in a such habitual manner that they don't even recognize that they're anxious anymore. So it's just a habitual state of being. And we start using, whenever our nervous system is hyper, we go for food to calm ourselves down. Also, cortisol level at that time is high, so we're much more likely to retain those calories as fat because it's just the nature's way to protect itself when you're in danger.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that you have to address before even changing the behaviors is reducing the anxiety. Another thing that I would also mention for a lot of people is most people will have emotional eating when they're not giving their body enough nourishment early on in the day. So making sure you have a good breakfast before you're starving, and then doing some sort of an anxiety reducing thing before you eat. So for some people, it's going to be meditation. For some people, it's going to be breathing. For some people, tapping might work. Choose whatever you're comfortable with, but stick with it and start doing it consistently. So here, it's not about choosing what's best, what's better, what's worse, but doing it consistent on a daily basis. Because with meditation, with yoga, with most practices, it's not enough to do it once and say, okay, now I'm good at meditating, so I'm not going to do it. It's the same as with food. You eat every day, so you have to do something to calm and nourish your nervous system every day as well.
Exactly. You know, that's what Ayurveda is all about, the routine. You know,
Yes.
getting a good routine and sticking with it. That helps keep us grounded. It helps keep us healthy. You know, Ayurveda says go to bed at the same time every night, to wake up in the same time every morning. And we know how off and off out of balance we feel, like if we have to wake up at 3:30 in the morning to catch a plane and go somewhere and we're in a different time zone, we know we feel off. So, you know, but we have to do those things every once in a while. But why put ourselves through it if we don't have to? You know, stick to the routine, and it's going to help you be your healthiest and happiest all throughout the
Yeah.
day.
And I think a lot of people think that routine is boring and it's so much more fun to sleep one day until 11 and another day wake up at 5. But in reality, having a practice, a routine, gives you so much more freedom to use your energy to other things like creative projects and work and actually doing fun stuff versus trying to maintain normal health in your newly changing, daily changing routine.
Oh, exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. And like how I mix up my, you know, routine and find fun in the day is I'll do different kinds of yoga. Like I recently discovered this anti-gravity yoga.
Hmm.
Now when I go to the yoga studio, I'm like flying through the air in upside down and all kinds of stuff like that. And it feels really good. So I'm still doing my exercise, but I'm just mixing it up in that way.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of really finding what you like and being open. I'm kind of the same way. I like to change my exercise and see, okay, what am I feeling like doing today? And not getting attached to things. If it's working, it's working. If it doesn't, you move on to the next thing. And Ayurveda and yoga are both very clear on that attachment to anything is one of the worst things.
There you go. And to stress yourself out about it is really bad too.
Yeah.
So you always just do the best you can, because Ayurveda says as long as you're doing 51%, you know, good. You're living the Ayurvedic lifestyle. But if you beat yourself up and said, oh shoot, I forgot to wake up at the right time, or I forgot to go to bed at the wrong time, or I blew it, and you're beating yourself up, that you're only making matters worse. Just be easy and graceful and, you know, do the best you can. That's what I love about Ayurveda is it's so
Yeah.
forgiving, you know?
Yeah, I think doing the best you can, but also what I do for myself is I check in whether whatever I'm doing, is this the best decision for my body right now? Like, would my body agree with my decision right now? So
Yeah.
sometimes I may skip yoga and go for a walk. And I will check in, like, am I feeling good right now? So then there's no point in finding guilt of any sort.
Very
So
good. I love that because guilt is non-productive. That doesn't help us at all.
no, and it actually makes things much worse. Even on a chemistry level, it will change our chemistry. So there's no point in feeling guilty or shameful about anything that you do for your body. As you said, do your best and commit to creating a good relationship with your body.
Very good. Now your website, spinachandyoga.com. I love that. How did you come up with that name, your brand?
You know what? I like when I was creating it, I wasn't planning on making it a blog, like, or it was just something that came to my mind. I like yoga, I like greens, um, and I couldn't come up with anything better. And now it seems like it's a really easy thing for people to remember, so I just keep it.
It's perfect. It's perfect. It says healthy and fresh and green and good, and I love it. I think it's really, really good.
Thank you.
Okay, so tell us more about what you have going on in your program and how people can sign up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I'll just open a chat box and I'll share a short link for people so they can check the program. But basically, the program is called New Vibrant You, and it's a program that mostly is targeted for women, and it's all about finding a new way to nourish your body, both physically and emotionally. And that's just one of the projects that I'm working on right now. I'm also planning to do more webinars, more live classes, more interviews, going to do more retreats. So there's lots of stuff that's happening, and I think the best way for people to keep up with all of that is to start reading my blog, to check in on the website once in a while, and I post most of my stuff there. And I will also be providing more recipes for Lisa's Perfect Balance Club. So if somebody wants to start adapting their eating schedule, finding more healthy recipes, making food shopping easier, then I think that's a fun option.
Mm-hmm. And tell people about your book as well so they can go get your book.
Yeah, so the book, Happy Belly, you can find it if you go to spinachandyoga/Happy Belly, and there I describe the book, and I also will give a lot of bonuses to people if they send the receipt to gifts@spinach.com. And the gifts include a recipe book with over 100 recipes, and some downloads and interviews, and a meal plan, and more tips and stuff that you can actually print out, as well as Happy Belly approved brands and products. So there's a bunch of stuff that you're getting if you do order the book. And so far the reviews on Amazon have been amazing, and I feel very grateful that the book has been such a source of inspiration for so many people already.
Oh, I love it. As you know, I love it. So I'm a big fan.
Thank you. Well, Lisa, I really appreciate all your support and the knowledge that you've been sharing. It's so incredible that you wrote 7 books while being a mom and like maintaining a normal lifestyle.
Yeah, it's fun, but you're like the new generation. You're the up and coming ones. I'm passing the torch to young girls like you know, because I'm going to be a grandma someday soon, hopefully. Both my boys are big and married and everything, and I think it's really important that the younger generation reach out and teach our children, and I'm certainly going to teach my grandchildren all about this, because of when I look back at my life and all the things that I've done, I can honestly say that Ayurveda has been the best thing I've ever done, is taking on the Ayurvedic lifestyle and learning about it and teaching it. And I think it's helped more people than anything else that I've been able to teach. So I really believe in it, you know, and trust it.
It's very inspiring to watch you being so incredibly active and energized and excited about something that you've started doing a while and still believing with it with so much passion.
Yeah, I first came across Ayurveda, I think it was like 1996 I started finding it. So that was, you know, that's been a long time now. So, yeah, but I'm so happy that you're on board with the club and with everything that you're doing and that you're helping so many people. And I also want to remind people that if you join the club, you can ask Nadia questions directly, and also of any of our experts. And we have some great Dr. Manisha, who's a wonderful Ayurvedic physician, and she creates her own herbal spice blend. She's one of our experts. And Claudia Ricci, who is an expert in Ayurveda and fitness, and she's on board too. And I can't even think of all that. We have 7 different experts, right?
Yeah, and we have John from Joyful Belly.
Oh, he's great too. He's great. So if you want to communicate with any of the experts, that's a good way to do it because the members have a section where they'll answer you personally. So come on
Yeah.
board. Yeah. So Nadia, thank you so much. You've just been an angel as always.
Thank you, Lisa. It was really fun. Thanks, guys, for watching. And make
Okay.
sure to check out both the club and both of our websites.
Awesome. Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.